Hello. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone who's watched the cheap ephemera videos 1 and 2. This is part 3, but we're just concentrating on one thing today, and that's tags. And we're going to talk about 19 different tag-based substrates that you can use to make your journal tags. I am going to be using a paper cutter, a cutting board, a knife, a pencil, a pair of scissors and a little card of some sort. You need a plastic card, and you might need a ruler if you don't have a cutting board. What I do is I use these to make my templates, and I cut the 4 corners to various kind of sizes and angles in order to make sure my tags are all roughly the same size. Now, once you've done this once, you won't need to do it again. So I've got my card. Now I'm just going to move these bits out of the way. The only other thing you might need is some gesso or some paint, and that can be completely up to you what you use. Now, the first type of tag is probably one of the easiest and already decorated tags, and that's digitals. The only thing with digitals is obviously you have to either make them yourself or purchase your digitals, and you have to print them. But the good thing about them is you can have completely decorated tags that will need very little, if any, work done to them. So that's tag type number 1, the digitals. We're not really going to talk about those any more than that. The second tag we're going to talk about is easy, it's cheap, and you can have it at various thicknesses depending on your journal. And for this particular one, I am going to use my paper cutter, and that is the next tag is book pages. Okay, this particular tag, I glued 2 pages together while they were in the book, and then when I took it out of the book, I've glued the pages in half and folded them again. So this is 4 thick. This one is only 2 thick. I glued the page, folded it in half, and I've got a single thickness here. I make my tags all the same size. Usually, actually, that's a lie. I don't always make them the same size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top off that. And today I'm going to work with a tag size, which is roughly 6.5 by 3.25. This folded edge is going to be nice and flat. I used that edge to cut that first cut. I'm going to flip it over and put it back in my trimmer. So again, I've got that nice straight fold against the marks at the top here. And I just use this edge of my trimmer to cut the length of my tags. And that way, most of my tags are the same kind of size. I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to make this 3.25. So there we have our first tag base. All we have to do now is cut our edges. So using your little card, you can cut the edges. Once you've cut one, you need to keep the card the same and flip the tag over. So both of the sides are going to be the same. And I'm going to do the same thing on this double thickness tag. And you can sit in front of the TV, glue your pages together, and just cut absolutely loads of book page tags. And what I've done is I've just used the spare to cut a small tag, and I've used the smallest edge I've made on my card there. So that's 3 tags cut, same size, ready to go, and they could be used for all sorts of things. I have my made tags or tag bases ready to go. I have those in a letter rack. I'm just going to show you a couple of other options. So these ones I've made from book pages, and these ones I've also made. The size of this one was basically determined by the size of the book page, but those are tags ready to go, made from book pages. Next tags I'm going to make are envelope tags. Now I've had to use new envelopes for these because I don't currently have any junk mail envelopes, but I've got 2 different colours here. I'm going to show you how I do that. Very, very simple. The first thing I'm going to do is seal my envelope. Now, sometimes it doesn't matter. It depends on the type of envelope you're using. I'm going to do the same as I did before. Put that in my trimmer, line it up with that edge, and just cut. And then line it up with 3 1/4 and cut again. So now obviously we are quite open here, but before I glue this together, I'm going to use my tag, my little plastic card, and I'm going to trim my tag corners. Once I've got that, I'm going to take my glue, open this envelope up, and how this looks on the inside will depend on what type of envelope you're using. This is a great one to use up those junk mail envelopes. Just put a little bit of glue around there. You don't have to worry too much. Flatten that down. And then you have a tag from an envelope. So that's idea number 3. Number 4 is the option that we are probably all the most familiar with, and that's using cardstock. So I'm going to take a piece of cardstock. This is actually not well, it was purchased, but I got this card comes from an old scrapbook that I picked up in a charity shop. I did go through the pages and cut them to A4, so it is A4 cardstock, although it didn't start life as that. And all I do is I go through and cut all of mine to 3 1/4 or 3 1/2. It depends. Sometimes I do 3 1/2, sometimes I do 3 1/4. You obviously can pick your own size. Now this piece is perfect for cutting smaller tags, and so are all the little pieces we cut off the bottom. So cut. You get 3 full-size tags out of 1 sheet of A4 card. This is now perfect for making little tags, and I keep all of these scrap pieces I keep for smaller tags or other things. And then once again, cut all of my corners. So the great thing about using cardstock is those are the little pieces. You can see how I've made a little tag out of that piece. But the great thing about using cardstock is you can have any colour cardstock. You can use your craft, you can use textured. So I've got some white kind of linen finish and some cream linen finish tags. I've got some cream and some ivory now, and these are all going to go into my letter rack, ready to make and decorate these at a later date. Number 5, I'm not going to show you how I make them, but exactly the same way I make my cardstock tags, I will use file folders, suspension folders, and these are little buff folders that came from a stationery store. My suspension files I usually get from Facebook Marketplace. So that is another substrate you can use, file folders and suspension files. Number 6 is scrapbooking paper. Now, you can do this 2 ways. You can make your tags with scrapbooking paper you love and you've got your ready-made tag, or you could gesso the sheets that you don't like and make tags out of paper that you wouldn't normally use. The other thing I do quite often is I use the back of scrapbooking cards and I'll cut tags out of that. I've done these in 2 ways because it's a 12 by 12. I've cut it at 6 inches and then I've cut it. These ones are just cut at 3 inches, so they are fairly thin. And these 2 I cut at 6 inches and folded in half. So these are nice and thick. So again, thinking about the type of journal you're going to make, think about how thick you want your card. Scrapbooking paper, either a single or double layer, is another great way to make tag bases ready to go. The next option are paper packaging tags, and this is really, really simple. Again, what I do is I take my packaging paper, very, very simple. Let's start from this end. I'll just take the paper, glue it, glue that down. So once I have something like this, I will trim it into double sheets, and then I will cut my tags in exactly the same way that I've done. Now again, if this is not thick enough for you, you could always glue 4 sheets together and you would have a much thicker tag. But I love these. They are great for stamping onto, they're great for all sorts of things. So that was idea number 7. Number 8 and 9 are very, very similar to number 7. This one is made with painted papers, and again, it doesn't quite match, but that doesn't matter. You could put a piece of cardstock if you wanted this thicker, but using your painted papers to make tag bases is a fantastic idea. And this one is made from wrapping paper, and I've done it exactly the same way. Glued it together, cut it out in exactly the same size. So you can see the tags I've made so far are all similar sizes, and they can all go straight into my letter rack. Now we're going to get on to some of the thicker papers to make your tags with, and the first one is board. Now you can use board from the back of an envelope, you can use board from an Amazon envelope. Both of these work brilliantly. You could use the board from the back of an art book. And again, I've cut them exactly the same. And as you will see, some of these are much thicker and they do make a more sturdy tag base. So that's another idea. This one is one of my all-time favorites. If you watch my channel, you will know that I do this quite a lot. I'm going to take my cutting board and my cutting knife, and I'm going to grab just a tag that I have made previously. Now I have a ruler with a bit of a rise to it, and I would certainly recommend you use a metal ruler for this task. This is cardboard. We have cardboard boxes available to us all over the place. So what you can do is you can either draw around your tag like this, or you can put your tag onto your cardboard and then just put your ruler to the edge of it. I'm going to use my pencil line my ruler up, take my craft knife, and it's very, very easy to cut cardboard. Those last pieces. Now I don't waste any of this cardboard. I cut them into little pieces, as you've probably seen me use, and I will use the little squares as risers if I want to layer anything on my tags. So there we have some cardboard tags. So these are a little bit more sturdy and they've got a little bit more thickness. So these are great for kind of mixed media work. This one is a fantastic alternative to a wooden tag, and this particular tag is nice and sturdy, it's very thick, and it's made from a book cover. So if you don't want to pay for wooden tags, this is a brilliant alternative. Now I will use different types of book cover to make my tags. These ones are really interesting. They're slightly warped, so I would probably put those under some kind of heavy weight to flatten them out before I cut them. And again, this type of book cover is a really old tatty cover, but we've got a lovely decoration on the inside and we have something on the outside. So these are again great for mixed media. And what I would do is exactly the same as I did with the cardboard. What you need to remember when you're cutting a book cover is you will need to make several smaller cuts to get through your book cover, depending on the thickness. This one was a particularly thick book cover because it was quite modern. Some of the older ones are much, much thinner, but they are still an absolutely brilliant alternative to a wooden tag. So idea number 13, and that's using packaging. Now on one hand, you've got tags ready to go. What you could do if they're a little bit long, depending on how thick your tag is, you might want to bring in your paper trimmer and just cut that down to a similar size of your other tags. But with some paint, some gesso, perfect mixed media tag. You could also use paper and just punch out this little bit at the top. And again, this is another one, perfect ready-made tag. And of course, you can make smaller tags with the little offcuts. Not only do we have this kind of ready-made packaging idea, these particular tags are made from a box. This one happens to be a tissue box, but cereal boxes, all of these things can be used to make tags. Those are a little bit of a different shape, but we've now got a really nice selection of tags ready to go. The next one is fabric. This fabric came from the lovely Wilma. She sent me this in a package. I love it, and it's just perfect as a tag. So you could use this on its own if you did two layers, for example. You can strengthen it with some spray starch, or you could use one of your pre-cut tags and stick your fabric onto it. But fabric is a brilliant substrate for tags. So now we're going to move on to something a little bit different. And I've got two tags here. So these are two pieces of plastic that I have cut into a tag shape exactly the same size as all of the other tags. Now I would use maybe a sticker inside here, or I would use a dried flower, a pressed flower, or you could put sequins inside this, and I would personally sew around this. You just need to know your sewing machine. If you only want to use a single layer, you could still use some of the transparent stickers on top of this. And if you're making a very, very small journal that you wanted a thin tag for, this plastic is perfect. This is acetate. I've made some in a recent video using packaging. Now, those draper eyelets that I used, these are the plastic pieces that came on that, and you could get a small tag out of this and another small tag out of that. So don't throw the plastic away. It's perfect for making plastic tags like this. Vellum is another fantastic substrate to make a tag out of. Again, you could sew your two pieces together. It's great if you're trying to keep things fairly thin. You could glue this, you could also sew it, and again, you could put in dried flowers, stickers, and all sorts of things that will show through. The other thing you can do with this is actually layer it onto your book pages if you wish to do that. The next substrate is, I have limited amounts of this at the moment. This is another ready-made tag. Using your clothing tags, they are ready to paint, stamp onto, collage onto, all of the things that you can do on any tag. These are ready to go, and I usually have a selection of them, but I have no idea where I've put them. I haven't been able to find them for a while, but clothing tags are brilliant. The next thing is business cards, old business cards. These are my newer business cards, but the older ones are perfect for making into little tag shapes. You can gesso them and to make your tags. But if you're looking for a smaller tag, these are perfect. Oh, we're getting to the end now. Idea number 18 is greeting cards. Now, I'm sure we all have thank you cards, birthday cards, Christmas cards that are perfect for making tags out of. This, as you can see, was one card, and that was a card. I've cut them down the middle to make two. You could glue these back to back, cut your corners, and that is a perfect tag. You could add a label to it. That's ready to go. I've also made some smaller tags out of the top, as you can see here. And then out of the bottom, I've made some little tags. And I think these are really pretty. Quite often, they don't always need decorating, but they look great. And my last tag substrate for today are postcards. I absolutely love using postcards. Some of them are not the most attractive postcard in the world, but I would really happily use that as the start of a tag. You could add an image, add a label, that's ready to go. You could paint over this. I've done some inking techniques in the past that you could check out if you're interested, but these are just brilliant. You just cut off the edges, use your little card to cut the tags, and they are ready to go. So don't think postcards have to be really pretty postcards. You can use your not so pretty postcards. Not sure which way that goes or even what it is, but that's a great way to use your postcards, turning them into tag bases. So that is all 19 ideas for your tag substrates. Now, I have made all of these today in a fairly short space of time, and we've got our cardboard ones. My tag supply was getting a bit short, so I needed to make tags. That's why I thought this would be a great video. But you can see all of these tags are just now ready to go. I'm going to show you a couple of ideas I had that weren't fails as such, but they didn't really come under the substrate for tags. Another idea I had, which didn't work particularly well, is I have absolutely hundreds of pieces of cardstock that look like this. And I was going to try and make a tag out of it, but of course you end up with bits missing. But this would be a great addition to an existing tag as a top layer. So that's not really a tag, but it was just a little thought, because I tried to make some tags out of these backgrounds. But there you go. That is cheap ephemera, using different substrates to make your tag bases. I hope you found it useful. I hope there were a few tag bases in there you hadn't thought of using before. But if you have any other ideas, please put them in the comments so other people can see what you do and we can, you know, share our ideas together. Before I go, I just needed to say, I've had this pinned up so I could read it, but there is a list, and I'm going to put this onto my website, so you can just go and download this if you've signed up to my mailing list. You'll be able to download this, so you've got a little checklist of things that you could use to make your tags. Thanks again. I will see you all really soon. Take care.